welcome back to Daily Read on YouTube. Once again, the working website is going to be www.realhistoryww.com. The www is short for worldwide. Okay. So now I'm going to do something totally different because this is a read-in program. You guys have the website. I'm going to get back into those topics, but I just wanted to show some scientific information that puts a lot of pressure on what we've accepted as the reality of our situation. I can tell you for a fact that at one point on this earth, there was one man and one woman, and all human beings alive descends from those two human beings. Now, we can use deductive reasoning to say, well, they couldn't have been the recessive traits, or redheads, blondes, straight hair, curly hair, blue eyes, green, hazel, or gray eyes, because these traits are recessive, meaning they're less than or weaker. They had to be the dominant traits. Woolly hair. Two woolly hairs peoples can produce a straight hair person. Just a code change in a mechanism called a gene. A gene is a mechanism that performs a function. In this case, two woolly haired people's code passed on in sperm and egg tells the gene to omit the spirals, which makes the hair wavy or woolly. By omitting the spirals, we end up with the recessive hair type, straight. So the first straight hair person actually came from two woolly haired peoples. And this is called genetic science, okay? So there's a basis for everything that I talk about. When I say that the world's first human beings and all their civilizations were diverse blacks, I'm simply saying that at one point there were no recessive traits. That is, pink skin, red, white, creamy skin, like milk, or pale white skin. So it had to be the black skin peoples who went ahead and gave birth to the non-black skin peoples, right? Because we're talking about genetic science. It's not my opinion, it's just a scientific fact. So at the end of the day, with that being said, we can always draw the conclusion that regardless of phenotypic characteristics or morphological traits, that is hair color or hair type, the shape of a nose, the lips, the eyes, or the skull, or even the body type, all human beings had black skin first. Okay? Now, with that, just a basic premise of the whole website, okay? At one point, that was just the whole world. When I say black, I'm talking about a color. I'm not talking about the shape of a nose, your hair type, the shape of your skull, or your lips. Just a color. And regardless of these traits or characteristics, all human beings had black skin first. Now, so go ahead and check out the website. Once again, it's going to be www.realhistoryww.com, and the WW stands for worldwide. All right, moving on. This article is from ZME Science, okay? And it says, quote, Adam, figure of all men, is 340,000 years old. Now, this is a very old article. I knew about it, but I just wanted to bring this into the mix because this is, excuse me, my big computer is making noise. Let me mute this thing. Okay, so this is from March 7, 2013, okay? And so I'm just going to read it off, and we're going to talk about Adam. The figure of all men is 340,000 years old. And this person we're going to discuss is basically, if you're the oldest genetically, that means every man alive descends from you, or all men descend from you. And if your mitochondrial DNA is amongst the oldest, that means all women alive and men descend from you. Okay. Now, the article goes on to say, you may understand that all people are different, but it takes a lot of genetics to understand just how different humans really are. Albert Perry, for example, has something spectacular in his genome. His Y chromosome is so distinct, so easily identifiable, that it basically revealed new information about our species. Working their way around this chromosome, researchers were able to track down traces of the last common male ancestor down the paternal line of our species. They found that this goes back to 340,000 years old. Let's get this straight. They found that this paternal line, the ex-grandfather of humans, lived 340,000 years ago, twice more than previously believed. Okay? And you can see I believe the Y chromosome here. See, the Y chromosome is dwarfed by the X chromosome, as can be seen in this image, but only in size. Okay? This stunning discovery was based on how else a mistake. Perry was an African American. Now, let me pause here. Okay? When people tell you that, all the black people, they shipped from Africa, let's reason with. Let's think about this. If the oldest Y chromosome is 340,000 years, and we know that he was a black man, right? And man came from Africa, which the first name of Africa was not Africa. In reality, it was called Al-Kebulan, or the land of blacks. So we know that at 340,000 years ago, I can assure you that there were no non-black skinned peoples on this planet. So if there were peoples in Europe, or Asia, or the Americas, or South Americas, it makes sense to say that they were all diverse black peoples first. Makes sense, right? Because they existed first. Okay, now let's start again. So it says, basically, this stunning discovery was based on how else a mistake. Perry was a black American who lived in South Carolina, and one of his female relatives submitted a sample of his DNA to a company which we won't name. That conducts genealogical analysis. The data from these tests was more or less public, with hundreds of thousands of people being tested. Until Perry, geneticists concluded that all men gained their Y chromosome from a common male ancestor that lived 60,000 to 140,000 years ago, except for Perry, that is. Now, the people who are trying to teach us are not the native peoples of the earth. So the idea that they're coming up with all this information, and they're giving us this information, and we're taking this information as a gospel science, makes no sense logically or chronologically, because they were not here first. Okay? And you cannot allow the people who came into existence last to teach you of a past that they had no part in. Okay? You're just like, you're allowing basically children to teach you. Okay? So he lived, they believe, you know who I'm talking about. They believe that the most common male ancestor that lived 60,000 to 140,000 years ago, okay, except for Perry, that is, rewriting the family tree. Researchers tried to place his DNA on the family tree they created, but were unable to do so. His chromosomes were unlike anything else they encountered, because they were earlier in the tree than they were prepared for. The company was unable to go further. Okay? Okay? He examined an African database of nearly 6,000 Y chromosomes and found similarities between Perry's and those in samples taken from 11 men, all living in one village in Cameroon. This is most likely where this 340,000-year-old ancestor stemmed from. Think about that, guys. If there are peoples in Europe, and all the people came from Africa, and at one point there were no non-black skinned peoples, no non-brown-eyed peoples, no non-black hair or recessive hair straight, or the subdominant hair curly, it makes sense to say that the world's first human beings to populate the earth and all their civilizations were diverse black peoples. So if they ship people from Africa, they simply ship more that were already here. Make sense? Okay. Now, it says, okay, so this is the most likely where this 340,000-year-old ancestor stem from, right? I said, whoa, I just feel the need to take a minute and recap all this. Genetical research has managed to track down the 340,000-year-old ancestor of a South Carolina man to a small village in Cameroon, right? The emergence of information in our species in recent years is dazzling. Now, again, to clarify things a little, yep, this is not some sort of Adam-like figure whom every human branched from. Nonsense. The strikingly high odds are that it is not a single Adam person, but rather a large group that acted as Adam. But think about it. Okay, now, no matter how you look at it, the earth started off with two peoples. There had to be two peoples, one male, one female. So no matter how you branch them off, it goes back to two peoples. Okay? It just makes sense. They're fighting, it's like swimming upstream. Okay, this one branched to this one branched to this one, but if you go back far enough, there were just two peoples. Okay? Now, where was I? Okay. The strikingly high odds are that it is not a single Adam person, nonsense, but rather a large group that acted as Adam. But I beg your forgiveness, because the great X and grandfather of most men is sort of lacking in appeal. But the main shift here is the time frame. The first anatomically modern human fossils date back only 100 nonsense. Come on, peoples. Don't buy this stuff, man. Humanity is hundreds of millions of years old. Or if not billions of years old. Come on. The earth has been here forever. We're allowing people to teach who are not even 100,000 years on the planet. Why? It makes no sense to say that the earth is billions of years old and humanity is just 195,000 years old. Why are they trying to do this? Because if they say that humanity goes back far longer than they would like it to be, then the question is, what do they really know? They know nothing. So instead of saying, hey, we don't know anything, they want to make dates and time frames. And then the only thing that's going to happen to change their mind is for information like this to come out. And they say, oh, humans have been here 100,000 years longer than we previously thought. Right? So they have to change the information, which is science. It's always changing. But at the same time, just be honest and say, we really don't know. That's the best guess. Anyways, I digress. Now, the first anatomically modern human fossils date back only 195,000 years. Don't believe that. So Perry's Y chromosome lineage split from the rest of humanity long before our species appeared, and this is where it gets really interesting. Here go the nonsense. There's no such thing as modern and archaic humans. If you're a human, you are always a human, you will always be a human. There are just many variations of human beings. So these people are always feeding nonsense. Modern or archaic humans. Think about that, the implications of what they're trying to say. Perry is a modern human being, or was. He's now deceased. He was a modern human being. 2 hands, 2 feet, walked upright, talked, had a language, culture, etc. Right? What are the implications? Could this, let's call it for the lack of a better word, ancient Y chromosome be inherited from an archaic human population? There's no such thing as archaic, peoples. Human population that has since gone extinct. Quite possible. Nonsense. If this is the case, the next conclusion is that some 200,000 years ago, anatomically modern humans interbred with an ancient African human. Are we talking about a new human species entirely? This people are so sick, man. I don't understand this people. Why do they fight reality? And, I'm always reading and I'm commenting because you cannot allow someone that you perceive, that means you came before their existence, to teach you of a past that they had nothing to do with. They're going to teach you nonsense. So every time I read something, you always have to think about the mind frame of the people who are writing the article. You always have to examine their outlook, their perspectives, because you're not getting reality. You're getting their perspective, their worldviews, their own personal beliefs, their own biases, okay? So it's not just to read something, you have to analyze it. So are we talking about a new human species entirely? Almost impossible to say. See, he's very vague, he's very ambiguous, he doesn't give you a specific. I'll be more specific. All human beings alive descends from two peoples, because at one point they had to be one man and one woman. I'm not religious, that's just reality. I don't care how they branched off, they had to be two. Perhaps two were programmed with the codes to produce all. And as they reproduce, you have small code changes called genetic mutations, which brought forth, not a mistake, brought forth the variations that were coded. So that brown eyes gave birth to non-brown eyes. Black hair gave birth to redheads and blondes. Woolly hair gave birth to straight. Black skin gave birth to non-black skin. That's the science. Programmed to produce all. Wolves were programmed with the genetic ability to produce dogs. Okay? So, anyways, I digress. Just be careful when you read articles. Always analyze everything you read to make sure that you're getting the information based on facts and not based on another person's or people's perspectives or cultural outlooks or personal biases. Okay? Now, are we talking about a new human species entirely? Almost impossible to say, but more likely the answer is no. As a matter of fact, fossil evidence seems to suggest the first hypothesis. Nonsense. Hypothesis, your educated guess, no. All right, in 2011, researchers examined human fossils from a Nigerian site called Iwo Eleru, I guess, close to the Cameroon village I was telling you about. We found several puzzling characteristics for those fossils. First of all, the fossils showed a strange mix of ancient and modern features. There's no such things as ancient features. A human being comes with many variations. Oh, God. Okay. Let's just read through it. Okay, I need to stop analyzing. Just read. Okay. First of all, the fossils showed a strange mix of ancient and modern features, which suggests that a population of more modern men was interbreeding with a more archaic population. Now, think about it, peoples. What's an archaic? The shape of the nose, the lips, the eyes, the skull? Or just be honest, there's just many variations of peoples. Right. Okay. You be the judge. Okay, I've done my fair work in paleontology, and I know this is just wishful thinking, but finding some human fossils in the close vicinity of the village would be gold. There are already discussions of expeditions, and if successful, this kind of discovery could allow us to better understand who we are as a species, where we stem from, and who we were breeding with, via new scientists. Okay? Now, guys, again, this is the oldest Y chromosome on the planet so far, and it's in black peoples. So, and black people scientifically are the most genetically diverse. That means you can find a black person with straight hair, woolly hair, curly hair, every shape of the skull, the nose, the lips, the eyes, every body type humanly possible. This was the first world, which I term the old world, black world. Okay, in recent times, brown-eyed peoples began to give birth to blue-eyed peoples, or non-brown-eyed peoples with black skin. That was the first genetic mutation. Mutation is just a code change passed on in the sperm and egg that tells a gene, which is a mechanism that performs a function, what to make, based on the codes that's passed on in the sperm and egg. Okay? So once you understand basic genetic science, you say to yourself, the whole planet was black skin first. So the whole premise of this website is at one point on this earth, there were no recessives, no redheads, no blondes, no blue, green, hazel, or gray eyes, no red skin, pink, white, creamy white, or pale white, none of the subdominant colors, for example, dark brown, light brown, high yellow skin, and low yellow skin, or red bones. The whole planet, every human being was black skin first. Okay, guys? So I just wanted to show you. So when they tell you, oh, we should be from Africa, just remind them, hey, man, we were here from day one. So wherever you find human beings, we were the original peoples there. Unless your Y chromosome is 340,000 years old, it's not African Americans, it's native peoples of the earth. Okay? So once again, guys, hopefully you guys, have a safe time. We have this coronavirus going around. I'm pretty sure I've had it. I've been sick for 3 weeks. I've been self-quarantining at my house. All the classical symptoms. So I'm not going to really get into a lot of information. I just wanted to bring this to you so you can, when you listen to something or when you hear something, don't just take it at face value. You have to evaluate the information. You have to evaluate the people who are presenting the information, and then you have to do your own research, because people, human beings, for the most part, are liars. Whatever works in their best interest, that's what they'll go along with. Okay? So once again, guys, go ahead and check out the website. The website is www.realhistoryww.com. And the WW is short for worldwide, where the world's first human beings and all their civilizations were diverse blacks from the beginning. All right, guys, so hopefully you stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day, and self-quarantine, and hopefully you get out of this thing. Everyone is alive and no one dies. Peace.